Now we move on to panel number 2, Agility 21, Skills and Mindsets for the 21st Century. This panel is focusing on the agility and the mindset of the future. Having entered the age of continuous change and constant disruption with the development of artificial intelligence, new economies, and more, the new era is requiring specific skills and mindsets that are going to allow people to adapt, navigate, and often initiate a change. The Agility 21 panel is aiming to address the issues from the perspectives of education, business, finance, entrepreneurship, technology, and media. Our first guest is the host of this initiative, Dr. Peggy Pelonis, the president of the American Community Schools of Athens. Dr. Pelonis, of all the SDGs, you represent leadership in the role of educators being the critical driving force behind education and new technologies, new skills, new mindsets. We're very excited to hear about all the 17 SDG goals that are really responsible under your umbrella of education and passing them on to the new generations. How will you educate the students? What game-changing strategies do you have in order to breed conscious citizens of the world?
Well, I think I want to start by saying, Yanna, that I feel, first of all, a great honor and also a great responsibility to be leading an institution that has the American philosophy of education and curriculum, of course, but also situated in the heart of democracy in Athens, Greece, and hosting more than 60 nationalities. It's really a microcosm of the global world. And so kids coming together here to learn with one another, to communicate and collaborate with one another, and this becomes kind of an educational laboratory for what could happen outside in the world eventually. So what kind of education does that take? I'm going to revert back to the ancient Greeks. It takes holistic education, educating the mind, the body, and the soul. And what do I mean by that? It's really important today. We talked about earlier, we heard that change is happening at a very rapid pace. Technology is advancing quickly. Artificial intelligence is entering our lives. Change is a constant in our lives. We were called on to respond to change just recently with COVID. The children in the world looked to the adults for the answers, and the adults had no answers. The adults looked to the authorities for the answers, and the authorities had no answers because this change took us by such surprise. Well, change is going to continue, and it's happening on multiple levels and continuously. And what's happening in the world of education is that the global economy is creating higher levels of competition, requiring higher levels of expertise, requiring people who know themselves better, who understand the world better, who are able to manage themselves, be self-directed, be more independent, and knowledgeable at the same time. This means that we have to train young people at a higher level of mental complexity earlier and younger. And of course, this places a lot of psychological stress on us, on students. But we have to be able to, people are also very resilient. Young people are very resilient. So they have to be able, we want to be able to teach them not only to respond and cope with change, as we did with the pandemic. We certainly responded. We didn't know what to do, but we figured it out eventually. But we want to teach them to be able to navigate change, and most importantly, to shape change, to initiate change, so that we don't and they don't become victims of change. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, of course, academics are very important. Not just math, not just science, not just technology, but the classics. We have, philosophy and literature and music and art, because these are the things that teach us how to think critically. We need to know how to synthesize information. We need to know how to make decisions about things, and we need to make decisions through an ethical lens if we have any hope of improving life and living on the planet. So when we talk about educating kids holistically, yes, we talk about providing the skills and the knowledge so that they can succeed in a very competitive world, but we're also talking about creating conscious, responsible citizens. People who will take that knowledge and skill and turn it into action in the world. So that means being able to cultivate compassion, being able to cultivate psychological muscle, so that they can turn all of these things into positive action to improve life and living on the planet. So it's not just about the kids, though. It's also about the educators, because I still believe that no matter how much technology enters our lives, no matter how much robotics or artificial intelligence kind of starts to take over things, we still need to cultivate the human factor, and teachers still hold the key. Because teachers can teach young people how to think about things, how to make decisions, how to create choices and opportunities. And that requires a different kind of thinking. It means that teachers also become learners and lifelong learners. We all must be lifelong learners. We have to constantly learn, be ahead of the change, and shape the change if we're going to make a difference. And young people's mindsets are very important, because I think that the result of education is not necessarily immediate. I mean, yes, the scores and the tests and the college acceptances, these are immediate, and these are, of course, necessary, and these are what we aim for. But the real results of education show when young people go out into the world and live their lives and make the choices in terms of how they will live their lives, how they will impact the world, what kind of choices that they will make that will make a difference in a positive way, and how will they think about improving their lives, somebody else's life, and life on the planet.
It translates into life. Education translates into life, into the workforce, on the field. And of course, education itself is changing in rapid speed. Technology is changing, and educators have to adapt to that as well. Tell us how ACS is adapting to new technologies and how the students are learning.
Well, in all the ways that I think schools, are advancing. Of course, technology is a very important part of the school. Academic rigor is a very important part. Artificial intelligence is entering our curriculum, and so on and so forth. I think, as I said, we're taking all of this and teaching young people to take all of this knowledge and skill and say, okay, how can I use this and make an impact in my community right now here? First in the school, and then in the local community, and then beyond that. How can I initiate changes that will actually improve things? How can I make these decisions through an ethical lens so that whatever is happening out there is not harming, but is improving? And so in this way, what we're developing is what we call conscious, responsible citizens in the school and beyond the school. But somebody mentioned something earlier that's very, very important. We can't do it alone. So partnerships are very important. And the previous panel was talking about partnerships, and one of the reasons that we decided that this was going to be a cross-sectional panel is because these kinds of partnerships are so very important, so that we are informed as educators about what's going on in the world out there and what kind of skills are necessary in order for young people to succeed. What are they looking for? What are they looking for when they hire people in their prospective, areas? But in addition to that, we also are informing the different sections as well about what we're doing in education to prepare these young people.
And all of this is fostering creativity. The new generation, and an example of many of the students of ACS, are coming out with wonderful new ideas. Thank you, Dr. Pelonis. I just want to pass on now to bridge this topic to our next speaker, Konstantinos Michanetzis, who is the founder of Syllipsis. Syllipsis Corporation provides the means and expertise to develop and commercialize business ideas. So he is taking the new generation. His company is listening and really coming into what the new generation wants to realize with their ideas. And Silipsi brings technology ideas into realization. It operates Greece's branch of MIT Enterprise Forum, which is very important, and the annual MIT Enterprise Forum Technology Startup Competition. The future of the workplace is moving in the direction of embracing new technologies, new skills. The marketplace will look different. It is looking different. People that are in the new generation coming in is coming in with new skills. The people who are already in mid-careers and end of their careers may not be able to keep up with these new technologies. They have an old paradigm. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on how the current evolving technological tools created for the marketplace, what will we be seeing for the new generation?
Yes. Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. I'd like to thank you, first of all, Mrs. Pelonis and George Sifakis, to invite me to this wonderful event. It's a great pleasure for me. Actually, I was very happy to see today Mr. Admiral Marzoukos. He was my first captain when I was a young naval officer almost 30 years ago in the first ship that I was assigned to serve. And seeing all very beloved persons, it's very, very nice. So to your question, yes, Silipsis is a company that does exactly that. We help young entrepreneurs take their idea and transform it into a business. And the idea comes from many years in the IT industry. And in 2014, we decided to bring in Greece the MIT Enterprise Forum of Greece, which is a technology accelerator supported by MIT. We did this because we wanted to help our country back then. We were in the crisis, the financial crisis, and we see that people started coming out with ideas and trying to become entrepreneurs. And through this process, we wanted to bring a structure, an organization that will help this process through an acceleration program and mentoring and advising and things like that. And actually, Silipsis came after that. So Silipsis was the cumulative process of interacting with MIT Enterprise Forum and getting in touch with the startups, and the experience we had into developing software for many years. And what it is that we saw that there is an opportunity in the market that young entrepreneurs which don't have the technical skills, like, for example, experienced people from the maritime industry or the health industry or the engineering industry, they wanted to form teams, build products, get into the market, but they didn't have all the skills. So this is the idea how it came out. Now, skills is the new currency of the future, I will say, and it's the expression of the industry to try to cope with the fast-changing things that happen into education. Education and skills are two things that they come together, but they also contradict a little bit. Skills are against, let's say, the traditional educational systems that we have seen, and they express the need of the industry to bring more and more in a faster pace. So that's why now we're speaking about degrees and skills. And even Google announced a few months ago that they will be hiring people without degrees based only on skills. The reason they do this is not that they don't like skills, degrees, it's that because they are trying to cover the high demand of skills in the marketplace, which the pace of the universities cannot cover. So we're in this era now that people will need to be upskilled all the time and all the time and all the time. And this will become even more demanding as artificial intelligence comes in, and it will start taking jobs from our people, and we will need to switch careers, we will need to switch skills and move towards another direction. So yes, right now we have marketplaces for skills. These were available for many years before the pandemic actually appeared, but they were mostly focused into specific industries. So the IT industry and the digital art industry were mostly utilizing this marketplaces. And then pandemic happened. And this was a huge shift. The big shift was that companies had to change the way they work. So they had to work with remote workers, and they had to learn tools, and they had to learn how to manage remote workers. And this is the big difference. It's not about learning the tools or having tools or having infrastructure. It's about what changed with the pandemic is the understanding of management. So companies felt safe that now they can outsource production to people remotely, and they can do the job equally good as they used to do, even many times more, even better than they used to do it before. Having teams in offices, they could reduce facilities and expenses. Workers were more happy because they were not commuting and they would work from home. And this changed the whole concept. And now that we have this idea of, we can manage remote teams globally, and we can understand and we know how to do it, now a great door open. And companies can start outsourcing not only digital skills, and this is something we see, and we see a new marketplace appearing in the industry. And before we had only marketplaces for IT and digital arts. Now we see marketplaces for legal services. We see marketplaces for for medical services, or we see marketplaces for shipping services. And it's not only about remotely outsourcing, but getting access to skills. And this is, I think, where it's going. How skills are going to change the way we operate, and as businesses and as individuals.
Artificial intelligence is the future. It is groundbreaking. It's making life easier. However, people are also afraid of it. Should humans fear artificial intelligence will take over their jobs? Or should they adapt into new skills that they will be able to all work together in unison?
So the short question is yes.
Yes, should they be afraid of it or no?
The short question is yes, artificial intelligence will take our jobs. The long answer is it will take our jobs, but there will be new jobs for us. And this is what makes the requirement of reskilling and upskilling continuously. So yes, if you're a pathologist, most probably in the next 20 years, you're going to be out of job. If you're a taxi driver, the same. If you are, I don't know, many more jobs. But the thing is that more new jobs will appear, and more new opportunities for people to find new jobs and have a bright future will be there.
Well, big data is the new oil, and stevia is the new sugar. And our next guest, Christos Stamatis, the CEO of Stevia Hellas. Thank you very much. We're going to continue this conversation. We have more questions for you.
Okay.
But we're going to move on to Christos Stamatis, CEO of Stevia Hellas Cooperative, social and green entrepreneur. He is a mechanical engineer, and Mr. Stamatis is an example of a responsible business leader and citizen of the world by transforming his tobacco manufacturing company for sustainable, healthier, alternative sweeteners, stevia. The sweetener is not only supporting a health for humanity, but also for our planet. Welcome to our panel. Mr. Stamatis, what was the turning point for you to realize that you wanted to get into manufacturing something that's more sustainable?
First of all, I want to thank you for the invitation. I think that it was my curiosity and my will to discover and explore new endeavors always that forced me to enter green and social entrepreneurship. I am a mechanical engineer. I have a master's degree in renewable energy resources. And in my first decade as an engineer, I managed to establish 2 companies dealing with the energy sector. In 2011, I remember that I read in a Bloomberg Business magazine, we took it in a printed edition at that time, so that in California, ex-tobacco growers became stevia farmers. So I suppose that it was an opportunity for my region, because we had a lot of tobacco farmers that are struggling with the cultivation. So this is how we start collaborating with farmers in my area, and this is how everything was started. And this is my entering point to agri-food sector. A few years ago, 2 years ago, I read also in Financial Times that Philip Morris International will invest $8 billion to stop cultivating tobacco all over the world. 2 thoughts came in my mind. A lot of money, of course, $8 billion, but also what about these tobacco farming communities? What will be the future of these people? What will be the next day? How they will feed their families? So I decided to take a risk, because it was a personal risk, and I collaborated with a PR agency in London, and we made a proposal to Philip Morris International in Switzerland, where we asked them, okay, you will stop tobacco, but we can make these tobacco farmers to stevia growers, because tobacco and stevia have many similarities in terms of cultivation, and machinery, it's pretty much the same. And not only that we make this transition from tobacco to stevia, but we're going to use regenerative farming practices. And here I have to say a few things about regeneration. When we are talking today about sustainability, it's like talking about dinosaurs, because what to sustain? The wildfires, the mass extinction, the thunderstorm, the rain, the heavy rains, what? So we should regenerate our planet. We should find methods to regenerate our planet, not to sustain our planet. In my opinion, this is false. We should not sustain our planet. We should regenerate our planet. So we focused on that, and it was something very, very important also for Philip Morris. I found it very, very interesting. And from last year, we started a big project in Thrace, in the northern Greece, where we make this transition in many, many farmers that have stopped tobacco cultivation. And now Philip Morris and Papastratos here in Greece support this project. And we have many, many new farmers in northern Greece. And I'm very, very proud of this project. Because a lot of people, when they heard about that I'm going to do this step and I'm going to invest some money, because I paid some money in this PR agency in London to make the proposal and to build all the relationship with PMI, they told me, okay, you're going to spend a lot of money. But I believed in that project, and we succeeded.
Regeneration is a wonderful way of looking at it, and it is a wonderful message. What would you like to share about the transformation process? How difficult was it? And what can you share with the viewers about inspiring other businesses to take a sustainable approach in transforming their businesses?
I feel that sustainability and regeneration, it's the new way of living for the coming years. I think that all the companies should enhance in their strategy such a kind of techniques. Either they are dealing with the agri-food sector or in every sector. I think it's a main issue for all of us if we want to have a planet for the coming years. So if we're trying to do good for the planet will do good for us, like a good friend says. So I think this will be the core strategy for every company. It is not only for making money or for awareness, it's for our living, for our kids, for our planet.
Great investment. You're also supporting the job growth of Greece and offering more opportunities for equal opportunities.
Of course.
We thank you, and we're going to continue with you a little bit later on. I'd like to pass on to a woman who is a powerhouse, and I'm a very big fan of, Katerina Stathopoulou, the Executive Director of Investments and Finance, Governor of the International Propeller Club, Port of Piraeus. Ms. Stathopoulou, welcome to the panel. One of your main initiatives is one of my favorites, UN SDG, is number 5, gender equality, which includes equal treatment rules, active recruitment of women on all levels, and positions, and overrepresentation of women in managerial developmental programs. Shipping, unfortunately, right now, at this moment, is a male-dominated industry. But you are doing many things to change that, and you're supporting women in the industry. How does the Propeller Club further the interests of the maritime industry to support women in roles in shipping?
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure for being here. Male-dominated industry, women in the maritime sector. Can I can I tell you about Propeller, but first talk about women in the maritime
Yes,
sector?
absolutely.
Now we're talking about skills, and you mentioned mindsets. Now, I believe that any person wishing to enter any profession, in any professional career, and in any industry, it is a mixture of skills and character. It's not an issue of gender. It should not be an issue of gender. And I'll come to mindsets a little bit later, but we need to fix the mindsets and change them as well. Now, not all professions are for everyone, and the maritime industry is no exception. When we talk about skills, we have the hard skills, the educational skills that ACS and other institutions are offering. But then we also have soft skills. And I think everybody, and like you also mentioned, now they're trying to hire without degrees, meaning the hard skills. So we're moving forward and looking that soft skills are more important. So let me tell you a little bit of the soft skills needed in shipping, and then I'll come to the gender. Allow me to put a personal note. I believe that you should love your profession, and you obviously do, and you've been very successful, and everybody here is. I believe that if you're not passionate about what you do, because you do it every day, you will not be a happy person. So you will not be productive, and you cannot be successful. So to be successful, one of the skills you should have is passion and hard work. That's my baseline. Now, in order to be part of the maritime industry, you need to have patience and persistence. And you need to be open-minded, willing and able to deal with different issues every day, all day long. And in shipping, each day is different. It is an international industry, and it does not matter if you're working in a shipping company or on a vessel. You have to resolve and face different challenges and tasks. So as an international industry, you collaborate with various cultures, as I said, whether you are in Greece, sitting in London, or in Singapore. Now, what I have just described are soft skills and gender neutral. So in order to be successful as a company, you need to have diversity. And shipping is the ideal industry for employment diversity because gender diversity, cultural diversity is a step towards sustainable companies and, how did you say it? Regenerated companies. May I allow me to use that
Of course.
from now on? Thank you.
We should spread
because
the
we
word.
do talk about a lot of sustainability, but I like your point of view. It's regeneration. Now, women in shipping, that's my passion. I've been in the industry for over 35 years, and when I entered the shipping finance space, there was only one woman in the higher management level, and that was Mrs. Mariana Moscu, head of shipping finance in Citibank at the time. She was a role model. We all looked up to her, and she was a role model to the few ladies that dared to dream, like me, that I would climb the ladder up to a C-suite level. More than 35 years ago, and in Greece, in a male-dominated industry, that was a wild dream. And as Dr. Papaschinopoulou said, dare, dream, and do. Dream, dare, and do. It doesn't matter the order of things. Now, when I entered the industry, I felt that I was really over-scrutinized. So my mindset from the first day was that whatever I did, I felt that it would directly impact all those coming after me. And as I opened pathways in my career and earned the respect of the industry, I also assisted and mentored others to lead, to follow my lead. Now, what role does Propeller does in that? Well, the Propeller Club is promoting the interests of the maritime industry within Greece and internationally. And we're also empowering the young generation through our donations and scholarships program, which I chair. We also reward educational excellence, and we are now developing our Young Propeller membership program in order to further promote the industry to the young generation and bring them in direct contact with our members who are high-level managers in the industry. I'm very proud to say that from when I started in shipping up to today, we are now more the role models in the industry for the young generation are much more. And I'm proud because we've come a very long way in a very short time. And being part of the Propeller board, and I've also been on the board of WISTA, Women in International Shipping and Trading Association. I represented Greece for women internationally in shipping for 6 years. We were to promote young generation, diversity, cooperations, collaborations in the industry across the world. Because yes, cooperations and collaborations are the way forward.
Just to continue the conversation and mention what was said in the last panel, that Greece is a leader in shipping. What type of a career can women pursue that could segue into the shipping industry? Would it be a background such as your background in investment banking and finance?
The beauty of shipping, as I said, is international. And the beauty of shipping is that you can study whatever your passion is and then come into the industry. You can be a mechanical engineer. You can be a psychologist. You can even be a doctor and find shipping. You can be whatever you love to be. I really believe you need to love what you do. You're going to be doing it for many years, every day. So you can study whatever your passion is, and then you can learn and come into the industry. You can apply the skills we are all being taught, transferable skills. I am a very proud ACS alumni, and transferable skills were something that were being taught many years ago, and now the emphasis is here on that. And yes, you can bring all of that within shipping and follow your passion. I found shipping by destiny when I answered an ad and went into a shipping company because the CFO was looking for a assistant. And I became assistant CFO, very high-level position, learning very fast with a business degree and a finance degree. So if you love what you do, you need to be a lifelong learner, learn the industry, and evolve with the industry. I have grown, I have evolved, I have followed the trends and the evolution. I am reskilled every day, as we all are. We need to learn. The industry is changing, the world is changing. So whatever a young person likes and loves, they can find that they can apply it in shipping. They just need to be brave, be open-minded, and dare to dream and apply new ideas into a very closed industry. It wasn't only male-dominated, it was closed. And now it is opening. There's a lot of young generation who has already entered the market that is pushing the vessels forward. And I'm very proud to be a part of that.
Thank you, Ms. Stathopoulou. And so technology is part of shipping. And I wanted to go back to Mr. Michanetzis to ask him quickly if any new generation, is anyone from the new generation coming to you with any new technologies in shipping? What are you seeing most in your company? What are some of the business ideas that are coming to you from the new generation?
We do have ideas coming from shipping. And since you mentioned that, 3 years ago, with the MIT Enterprise Forum, we tried to create a global accelerator for shipping innovation in Greece, in order to attract innovation in the shipping industry from all around the world. And the big advantage for that was that Greece has the largest marketplace of potential customers. So if you want to innovate and you want to get access to your clientele, Greece is the best place to come. So unfortunately, this project didn't went through due to COVID. We had to stop that, but now we are rethinking again. At that time, we had the chance to see great ideas which will transform the shipping industry. For example, there are many things in autonomous shipping: energy efficiency, carbon monoxide emission control, compliance, many ideas, and many things happening in the shipping industry as well.
The first Sustainable Developmental Goal is eradicating poverty. And our next speaker is going to elaborate more about this topic. Mr. Leo Haritos is a finance expert and wealth management expert from Burke Capital. In accordance with the United Nations 1992 Declaration, the conference of 1992, they declared the Sustainable Developmental Goal and defined it as equitable, meeting the needs of present and future generations in the areas of development and the environment. And the goal has been to develop to tackle the dilemma of balancing the high-rate economic growth with maintaining at the same time a clean and sustainable environment. Now, in terms of finance, in the middle of this current, for a while now, global crisis that we're having, how would you define sustainable growth in finance?
Thank you very much for the question and for having me. It's always nice to be back at the old gym.
Another alumni.
I think to put it into perspective, all of the sustainable growth initiatives that we're talking about, either be they business or public sector, the two obviously should go together, but that's another story. The underpinning element will always be the finance industry, speaking very broadly. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the pitfalls that I've seen in determining proper growth strategies in our industry, because obviously they translate very quickly into what's going on in a broader sense in sustainable growth throughout various industries and countries. So basically, I wanted to give you a peek behind the curtain. You will be greatly surprised that the finance industry isn't very efficient. The bigger, the less efficient. I think we've known that for 100 years. Professor Berlin Means outlined that, and it was recently confirmed by Professor Jean Tirole, the Nobel Prize winner. So there are quite a bit of inefficiencies that one has to contend with whilst thinking about the very important topic of sustainable growth. Because if the finance organizations don't have their act together, it's going to be much more difficult to get the throughput to real sustainable growth. And I wanted to focus on what I've seen as the biggest mistake that we're committing, and I'm assuming it's also relevant for the sustainable growth industry, if you will, as a whole. We are always confronted in strategic planning at many different levels, from C-level on down, with this question of how quickly do we want to grow, what are our growth targets? And I'm always amazed how easy it is for the big talkers promising the world to come in and convince very intelligent people that their plan is the best and quick growth, go, is the way to do it. And I'm always amazed how few questions there are about the potential downside of achieving this quick growth that's always been promised. And obviously, you'll all know that this ties in very directly with the question of sustainable growth. Because quick growth is very nice. There are certain unicorn segments where quick growth without destroying the future is an option, but you'll all be aware that that's a rarity. So I want to, again, thinking about what to inform the younger people, when they're talking about sustainable growth, I want everybody to take advantage of the mistakes that have been made by older people, and to think about the things we learned about on the top floor of the building across the street: numerators, denominators, benchmarks. How do we actually measure the growth targets that we're all talking about? And also, much more importantly, the Achilles heel, if you'll pardon another Greek reference since we're here, is at some point, how do the policymakers, how do the financiers, the big talkers, at what point do the statistics or the numbers or whatever force them to admit that they've taken a wrong step? And how do we get them to, again, in the interest of agility that we're talking about today, how do we get them to move back to continue on the path of sustainable growth? I just wanted to end that particular example with an interesting discussion I had with actually the first female member of the New York Stock Exchange, one of the most incredible people I've ever met. I asked her, we were talking about the intervention by whomever in the capital markets at large, and I asked her, how small would the index be if there was no intervention? And her answer was absolutely amazing. She said, it might be higher, chances are it would be higher, but the components would be different. It's just an absolutely mind-blowing answer by somebody who's seen it all, who obviously had to be 10 times better than her peers at the US Stock Exchange. It was an absolutely incredible moment, also in my thinking as a business manager and somebody being part of the finance world. So Ambassador Pankratis' words in the first panel were absolutely correct. We unfortunately are living in interesting times in the Chinese sense. But the way to support real sustainable growth in the finance industry at large, supporting some of the interesting initiatives we've talked about today, is to make sure that there are no predetermined outcomes, and that the measurement is possible, and that you have to take the handbrake when all of the indications call for it.
So what is your advice to everyone watching today about the state of the economy in the world today?
In terms of the younger people and how they can influence things, I think I was thinking about this a couple of years ago. In COVID prison, obviously you watch a lot more online stuff, and I just thought of the captain of Olympic 411. That's the jumbo that would have crashed had the captain followed the rules. So, the message to the young people is, when you see everybody zigging, try to zag. Another thing I learned here at ACS. Obviously we had our issues with certain people in the administration, present company excluded, I'm sure. But that was a major lesson to me that I carried throughout my career, throughout my life. Don't be afraid to go your own path. Whether you're talking about measurement, whether you're talking about strategic initiatives, you have to go with the flow, and sometimes I understand it. It's the real world after all. But think about the invention of the airplane. There was no policy calling for the creation of the airplane that the Wright brothers followed. They did their own thing because they thought it was the right thing to do. And putting that into the context of sustainable growth and development, that's really what's going to be the catalyst for real sustainable growth.
Is the media causing any fear as far as the economy is concerned? Do you think that they're doing a good job in communicating what's the reality of things?
Depends on the media. The good thing is, and those of us who remember, we all became Alan Parsons fans by waiting for the soccer highlights on ERT in the mid-'80s, because that was the music they played when they were waiting for the highlights to load. I'm sure many of you remember that. But obviously there are more than 2 channels now. So the accessibility of viewpoints is definitely there. But again, it goes back into being able to filter, having the courage to go against the grain on certain ideas, pushed by the media of whatever ilk. And then, making sure that you're consequent about the path you're taking, obviously while making sure you're not so conceited to make sure that you don't go down a straight path.
Well, thank you, Mr. Christos. We're going to come back to you, and just to continue the conversation about what role the media is playing in general, also about communicating the Sustainable Developmental Goals. We're going to welcome our next speaker, Alexandros Costopoulos, Secretary General of AmCham Greece, and also founder and CEO of Foresight, which is a communications advisory firm recognized for its strategic mindset and impeccable credibility across the business and political spectrum. Welcome, Mr. Costopoulos. You've been in this industry for over 3 decades. You specialize in communicating, communications in general, and advising businesses on how to communicate. Tell us your opinion about how the media is handling communicating the SDGs and how companies are handling communicating sustainable goals.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. I think the quick answer is both the media and the businesses are completely failing. We do a lousy job. We stick on buzzwords and inspirational quotes. We spend enormous amounts of money in campaigns that practically are used only as photo ops, and we don't go to the fundamentals, which in my opinion are what is important. And the fundamentals have to do with actually what Dr. Pelonis said in the beginning, and practically everyone implied, to look at the fundamentals of our education, of the values and the principles that are instilled in us, whether it's hard skills, soft skills, or however we want to call it. I think what lies ahead is, regardless whether it's portrayed as the sustainability goals or as any other theory, what lies ahead, especially for our kids, is far more serious than what all discussions are collectively implying. And to me, being in the communications industry and having had the unique privilege to work for actually 25 years, not 3 decades, but it's okay, with leaders from both the political and the business spectrum, and actually the academic, I wouldn't put them as outside the equation. It's still very striking, the fact that we have failed to find a way to work together. I mean, take this lineup. You have a super interesting initiative regarding entrepreneurship. I'm sure that the leaders, if we want to call them, that take decisions about supporting entrepreneurship or not, have minimum knowledge of what this organization, just like many other organizations, are doing. You have a superb example of how innovative and critical thinking can work to shape change and create impact to local communities and through them to our national economy, to our own country. You have the maritime industry that is doing amazing things by themselves, and in the maritime industry you have the Propeller Club, which is of course my hidden love, but
I know that.
They are investing in tomorrow, and they are investing heavily in tomorrow. And I'm sorry to say it publicly, if you ask the current Minister of Shipping, just like the former or the next one, they think that Propeller Club, just like AmCham, are organizing just great conferences and receptions. And then you have economics, which is the basis of everything. If you ask 100 people about economics, they think that it's only about the people in the stock exchange or the people in Brussels or in the Treasury Department, where it's everywhere. And then you have, of course, the example of Dr. Pelonis and the initiatives that they take here at ACS, just like those remote public schools in Ikaria or in Kilkis or I don't know where. My point is, we have to find a way to work together, to collectively synthesize, regenerate the discussion. I agree, it's, I will too gonna take this quote. Of course, due to my profession, I will sell it to my clients. I give you commission. But the point is, yes, we have to think from the beginning all the things that we think we know. We're talking about reskilling, and yet we, that somehow, although it sounds tremendously arrogant, and please don't take it that way, acting as leaders in certain fields, we need also to get reskilled and to rethink the way we're working together. I think the media is doing a lousy job, but the media, it's us. The narrative that we create, it's what goes to the media. The media asks us about things, and I think most of the time we stick on buzzwords. We stick on what is easy. We stick on what it won't create problem to our friends, whether in politics or in business, or what will keep us safe. But it's a period, in my opinion, that it's not about keeping us safe. It's about making sure that it will be safer for our kids to pursue their dreams, to find what they love. I mean, I'm sure if we ask 100 students whether you think your CV is more important than falling in love, they will tell you the CV. But it's that idea of being able to fall in love, to live your life, to find what you want to spend your life doing every day. I think it's those fundamentals that we need to go back to them, to work together, and this is what the media or the broader communications industry will report in a way, will portray our stories. And maybe we can change something.
What do you think is missing from media, multimedia, all aspects of it?
I don't know. I think what it's missing from every major business that has tremendous influence to the community, to the citizens, to the people, it's the fact that we, everyone, directly or indirectly, whether we like it or not, tend to focus on our revenues, profits, and next day rather than what is actually important. And you can blame them. I mean, when I came back from Washington and started Foresight, I remember I met with people in the media industry back then, and they were dreamers. They were visionaries. They might have been working for less than what the people in the media work now, which is amazingly super few, low, extremely lower than what they deserve. But back then, they had this dream. They had this entrepreneurial idea of what the media should be. Today, this is not the case. The internet has transformed this industry, and in my opinion, it hasn't transformed it in the right way. New media have emerged, whether it's the social platforms or the owned media, as we call them. There are stories emerging literally every second. Everyone with an iPhone or any smartphone can become a reporter, but also he can become an editor. I remember back then, 25 years ago, when we were sending something to the newspaper, it had to pass from that high castle that the senior editor was to be published. Now you only have to push publish on a little button on your phone or something else. And you can promote with your euros or with your dollars any toxic mumbo jumbo you want to promote. There's no one to control, there's no one to put you on the right track. And unfortunately, going back to education, the people have put aside their own critical thinking. So it's a perfect blizzard, it's a perfect
Storm.
I don't know how you
It's a
can call it.
perfect formula for a storm. Misinformation, different views, and as Mr. Christos said earlier, it depends on who you're listening to, that's the truth. And so what is your advice to the new generation who wants to pursue a career in communications, public relations, or marketing?
With all due respect, I would say go back to school, study, get a degree, for Christ's sake, and aim for the best grades that you can get. Study. Myself, I always say to my daughters that I consider it a major flaw of myself that I never learned to read books. Back then it was easier to, especially if you were quick in the classroom and you were getting in it, to get a good grade, and that's it. But this is not education. I'm not an educator. I mean, I wouldn't dare to say anything in front of Dr. Pelonis, but I would say this is what it takes. And maybe you will realize that you don't want to go into communications. You want to go into another field. It's a trend. It's a neat thing. A few years ago, you would say, what do you want to be? It's advertising. Then we changed advertising and we made it communications. Then we made it public relations. Then it became other interesting words. But the bottom line is that when you have the opportunity to get the mic in front of you and to speak in public, you have a tremendous responsibility. And just like Mr. Stathopoulou said that maritime is not for everyone, that kind of responsibility is not for everyone. I'm sorry, again, if it sounds arrogant, it takes a lot of leadership to control what you can say to who, and to respect what they want to listen, what they want to hear, and respect also the broader environment.
And a lot of responsibility, and a big responsibility of that is, of course, the message and the information. Thank you, Mr. Costopoulos. And going back to just closing, what does Career Day look today for the new generation? What are the new students interested in pursuing as careers?
Well, first of all, I want to say I really love the word regeneration. So I think it's time to regenerate our thinking about a lot of things, as I said earlier. I think the young people have so many choices today, and that's a good thing because they're also creating choices. They're also creating opportunities for themselves through creativity and innovation, and that's what we want to empower them to do more of. Careers are going to change tremendously, and people are not going to stick to one career. So whatever we're educating our kids for today, it should be for the way they think, the way they translate information and synthesize information, and how are they going to make the choices. It's going to make a great impact in the world. That's what I would like to see out there, and I think that's what everyone here is agreeing on. So yes, I think education is the key. Educators are the key, but the partnerships are so necessary to make that a reality.
And it all begins with education. Thank you so much, everyone. I'd like to thank our speakers today. We wish we had more time to continue the conversation. I'm sure Dr. Pelonis will have you all back. Thank you for this wonderful information. We hope you all enjoyed it. And more to come. More to come on this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
5 minutes break.